Please, somebody tell me, what the fuck is wrong with millennials?
Look into my eyes and show me adventures I haven't seen. Taking all the life, it hits the spot. Walking on fantasy. So take me, baby, take me to a state of mind.
What's up, guys? I'm Kevin Nahai. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Other Side. And you already know what today's episode is about. I am very passionate about this topic and I could talk about it for hours and hours. So let's just dive right in. All right. First of all, I want to say that there are many reasons that I am super proud to be a millennial. So this is not just going to be a millennial bash fest. I don't think we're lazy. I don't think we're entitled. I don't think that we're stupid. I think that our entrepreneurial spirit is brilliant. I love our commitment to social justice. I love the fact that we're not so much into like corporate America and we've kind of stuck it to the man and we're finding other ways to make money. I love the fact that our generation is into yoga and meditation. We have brought back reading. We're into self-improvement. Like all of that stuff is fantastic. And I'm really, really proud to be part of a unique generation that is very different from the ones before it. But there is one thing about this generation that I absolutely hate and that makes me pretty ashamed to call myself a millennial. And that is the way that we date and the way that we view relationships. And the basic premise here is that for whatever reason, I don't know where this came from, and I don't know how we got here, but for whatever reason, millennials don't seem to see the value in long-term monogamous relationships the way that generations before us did. And I know that, you know, there are people who are watching this video who are in great, happy, fulfilled relationships, and they do believe in it, and they do see the value in it. And of course, I'm like that too, and there are always exceptions to the rule. But by and large, our generation doesn't seem to see the value in these really strong relationships, and we don't seem to take dating seriously because we're not worried or thinking about getting married and finding a partner and having a family and having children and providing for our families. Like that seems like a nebulous, far off idea to us that we will deal with when we're like 32 or 35 or 37, you know, or just not at all. The other day I was talking to a girl. She's 23 years old. She's tall. She's beautiful. She's super smart, has, you know, the world is her oyster. And she was saying, we were kind of talking about dating a little bit, and I was like, oh, so, you know, do you have a boyfriend? And she's like, no, I don't want to have a boyfriend. All my boyfriends have been shit. I'm done with that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, like, how about family? Like, do you ever see yourself getting married? Do you want to have kids? She's like, no, I am not into getting married. I am not into having children. I don't want to have to deal with that, blah, blah, blah. And it was so funny because the other people that we were with was one woman who's 50, and she's married, but she doesn't have any kids, and that's one of her biggest regrets. And another guy who's 45, he's married with 2 children. And it was so funny when this girl who's 23 was telling us that this is her outlook on relationships and the rest of her life, the three of us all laughed and we said, ha, that is so, by the time you are 28, you are gonna grow out of that mentality so fast. Like you are gonna look back and realize, what the fuck was I thinking? That I don't wanna have a boyfriend, I don't wanna get married, you know, like that stuff is not for me. Girl, you think that right now, but that game gets old real quick. And so part of the point of this video is if you're a millennial who thinks that way, I want to kind of highlight all of the problems here so that we can try to get ahead of this problem so we don't wake up when we're 35 years old, single and miserable, and then we're like, fuck, now I have to deal with it. So this is the thing. When you don't look at relationships as one of the most important things in life, when you don't see a long-term romantic partnership as one of the primary sources of fulfillment and joy and happiness in your life, a few bad things happen. One is you start to focus on all of the wrong things. You start to focus way too much on your career, way too much on making money, way too much on your social status, way too much on your Instagram, and you stop focusing on yourself, being a giving person, and you just focus on what you can get from other people. And that's really damaging and really destructive, because one of the ways that relationships grows people up and civilizes them is it teaches them how to be more compassionate, how to be more mature, how to be more giving, how to become a better person, not only because you're for yourself, but now because there's somebody else involved. And our generation is evidence, like the proof is in the pudding, of the really destructive things that can happen when you don't take dating and relationships seriously, and when you don't envision yourself in a strong, happy, stable, loving relationship, okay? So one of the things is that you start to get involved and you start to focus on all of the wrong things for your sources of joy and fulfillment. Now look, obviously your primary source of joy and fulfillment needs to be yourself. But outside of that, we start to focus on our career, we start to focus on money, we get involved in like going out and drinking and doing drugs, partying, hooking up with randos, like none of that shit, your money, your job, hooking up with randos, getting drunk, none of that stuff is ever going to bring you as much joy and peace and feeling of support and encouragement and stability as being in a strong relationship. Hands fucking down, ask anybody who's in one, they will tell you. Another thing, this is the worst. We are non-committal as fuck. So what does that mean? First of all, it means that at the slightest sign of difficulty in a relationship, we just throw in the towel. And I'm not even, you don't even have to be in a relationship. It's just at the first sign that you see that you don't feel like dealing with something or there's some kind of an issue, we're just like, I don't need this, I'm better than that. There's a line of people around the block who want to date me. I don't have to deal with it. Another part of being non-committal is that you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to be talking to 3 dudes on Tinder, and you want to be sleeping with that person from your job, and you want to be going on 5 or 6 other dates with some other dude who's super invested in you, and you're going to be DMing with a 4th guy on Instagram, so you don't have to commit to anyone. So you don't have to make a dedication to growing and becoming closer and learning about someone and investing in them, giving a part of yourself. And that is the fastest way. I mean, how are you ever going to end up in a happy, stable relationship if you can't make a commitment? That is the fastest way to end up miserable and alone. I'm sorry to say it. And it's not only girls. Guys with their non-committal issues, as we all know, are even worse. How many examples do you know of people who they've been together for 3 years or whatever, the guy won't sack up and propose because he's afraid to make that commitment, and the girl is eventually like, fuck this, I don't feel like dealing with shit, and she's out. I mean, that happens all of the time, and it's guys and girls in our generation with their commitment issues. I don't know where that came from, but we need to cut that shit out. And the third thing that's really destructive that happens is that if you don't see dating and relationships as something serious and valuable and important, you just lose respect for the other gender. You just don't treat them with the type of kindness and dignity and manners and politeness as you would if you saw dating as important and serious and a vital part of your future. A perfect example of this is the way that we men are not chivalrous anymore. I mean, I'm sure that I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers by saying this, but it's how I feel. When did it become acceptable to meet a girl at some bar at 10 p.m. rather than driving to her house and picking her up and taking her out to dinner? You pay for the drinks instead of paying for dinner. You guys split the check, and then you call her an Uber home instead of driving her home. Like, if I did that with a girl, my mom and my sister would have my balls on a platter. And it's just not respectful to treat a person that you're interested in that way, in my opinion. And women are also disrespecting men left, right, and center. A perfect example is ghosting. Like, who invented the concept of ghosting? That you've just been dating somebody for 3 months, or hell, you've just been sleeping with them or whatever, and it doesn't work out, you're not into them anymore, sure, like that's perfectly fine. You're totally entitled to that. And you just ignore them, you just block their phone number, you just pretend like they don't exist anymore, you just ghost them. Who does that? How is that kind? How is that respectful? How is that polite? Like, the manners. We have no manners towards each other anymore. And I'm sorry that I'm just ranting and raving, but I really feel like millennials, with our intellect and our compassion and our curiosity for people and the world and self-improvement, have so much to give to each other. And we can have such happy, blissful, loving, lasting relationships if we just take it more seriously, and if we start to view relationships and dating as something that we need to work on. It's like anything else. You want to become an amazing tennis player, you got to put in the work, you got to practice, you got to see that as something valuable and worth your time, and it's the same exact thing with dating. So, question is, how exactly do we do that? Well, I'm sorry to leave you on a cliffhanger, but the video will be way too long. So in my next video, which will be the follow-up to this one, I am going to tell you what I view as a successful, strong relationship, what that should look like. So please check that one out in a couple of days, and I will see you guys there.